In this video, I'm going to give a quick overview of how to create a table component inside of Figma that is responsive and has all of these varying cell types. So the first step is creating an actual cell. From a cell, you're going to use those components to then create the column layouts, and from the column layouts, you're going to combine them to create a actual responsive table. So one thing to note, when you're building out these cells, make sure that they're all the same height. So this is the small version of the cell, medium version of the cell, and large version. They all have the same, so make sure it's consistent. I use 60 height for the large, and 44 for the medium, and 32 for the small. Why that matters is in situations where you have like a nested component like this button, it might be pushing things down farther than 32, whereas the text might not push it down as much. Adding subtext, the line height is going to push it down. So you basically want to hard code it by just typing in the number that's consistent across everything. Why that matters is if you have like this line or this zebra stripe, it will not align if the heights are different. So for instance, if this is a data with subtext and it's pushing it further down, this won't align, it will look funny. So it's the first thing to note there. So now creating an actual cell. To get started, use the text tool, type out data or whatever you want to do there, and then give it an auto layout by clicking Shift A. And this is really the first step, the first building block. So we can give it vertical, horizontal spacing. We can give it space between items when you add multiple things. So the space in between the two. And then you can give it a fill color. You can nest things within it. You can do whatever you want. And then you can create the actual component, give it a name that's appropriate. And so we'll call this cell. Then we're going to add variants. So go up here where the component button was. Since that is a component, it changes to add variant. And then we can start adding variants and changing it, adding other components, other things like that. So what I did is we have the data version, we have data with subtext, we have with a button, and this button is a component that I had built previously. We have the checkbox icon. I'm using icons from Hero Icons, a great library. Check them out. Shout out to them. We have the badge. We have the avatar. So I created all of these. Now we're going to go ahead and create the columns. So I keep it simple. I just have the two, the zebra and the line. The line is just a border bottom. The zebra, it alternates, and that's just this off-white gray color here. So now if I wanted to create a column with the next one with data and subtext, we're going to click enter, and that selects everything within that frame. We're going to deselect the first one, and now we're going to just change this to data with subtext. And now we can go ahead and add a new type here, and we'll call this data plus to keep it simple. So now if you drag this here, we have the two options, text and data plus. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep things simple because I already have these cell types listed out, and that will make sense in a second. So if I drag this out, and let's create this responsive table. So I'm just going to duplicate that a bunch. I'm going to select everything, give it an auto layout around it, make sure space in between is 0. And then we're going to make sure that this is filling the container. Now this should be responsive, and it is, looks good. You also want to make sure that the individual cell is filling, or else there'll be awkward spaces in between. And now we can create a component and give it a title of table. And now you have your table component that you can reuse. So now when I'm building out custom tables, and let's say this last one I wanted it to be a button variant column, I'm going to double click to select everything. I'm going to click enter, and that's how we do a complex selection. We're going to deselect the first one, and we're going to go here and we're going to make this a button. And so that happened because it's made up of these cell types, and these cell types have variants. So now we have the button type. The last thing I want to say about this is If you want to give this like a border behind it or rounded corners or something, we want to clip the content. Let's make this 8 and let's give it a stroke value of like this gray color. And as you can see here, now you have that stroke around it. One more thing. What if this is super long? So notice how it's going underneath the column right next to it. The way to solve this, one way, there's probably others, please let me know in the comments, is to give this a min width, a minimum width. You click that, we're going to type out 200. As you see here, it is, everything is responsive except for that first column, and that's a way to deal with that issue. You can do that to other columns, of course. You can assign various min widths across the board and it will align accordingly. So now let's say this is just preview data. Another thing that I've seen, and you need to make sure that this is, the text is filling the container. You can go ahead and assign this like truncating text. And when you click that, if it didn't have that minimum width, notice how it's giving these 3 dots indicating that it's truncated text. And so as it responds down, it truncates. So that's like another way to not necessarily solve, but mitigate the issues with responsive tables. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that helps your projects. Let me know what else you'd like me to cover. Thank you.